Okay, I think we have everybody except Mr. Eason, and it's just been stated that he has had knee surgery, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. The meeting is officially called to order, so just wanna say thank you all for coming out for this much needed, discussion. Wanna appreciate, thanks to the council for coming and to everyone that's on the project team and that is around this circle. It's a round table, I guess, circle discussion, since we don't have a table, but it's a round circle discussion. Just want everybody to be transparent, come with your answers, even if you have already asked your questions. Please ask those questions again, because some of us may not be privy to those conversations that you had. And today, basically speak now, or I guess Beverly, right?
We need one small technicality, we probably need to let Bob take roll.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get there.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, sorry.
I'm just yapping right now.
Okay,
So I know we have the media here, we have the public here, but it's only gonna be a conversation with the council and those that are around the circle without any public input at this time. So again, just wanna say thank you all for coming. At this time, we will have Mr. Lighty to take the roll, and then at that point, we'll come back to the circle and let everyone allow themselves to introduce who everybody is at this time. Mr. Lighty.
Councilmember Hendricks.
here.
Councilmember Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Eubanks.
Present.
Councilmember Edwards. Here. Councilmember Oliver.
Here.
Council President Simmons.
Here.
And President, all 6 council members are in attendance, and therefore a quorum is present.
Thank you. So I'll start the introduction off. I'm Katrin Simmons. I'm City Council President. And again, thank you all for being here. And we'll just go this way.
Okay, I'm Jack Hendricks, City Council person, District 2.
Bill Musgrove, I'm the city attorney.
Blake Edwards, District 5.
Shayna Balch, City Chief Financial Officer.
Todd Sullivan, city engineer, assistant city engineer. Ed better than me.
Calvin Durham, architect, Lambert Easel Durham.
I'm Brad Parker. I'm a senior pre-construction manager for Robinson Moore.
I am Mitch Coley with Robinson Moore.
Melissa Bailey, Planning Director.
Bill Griffin, District 3.
Jimmy Oliver, District 6.
Michelle Eubanks, District 4.
And again, I'm Katrina. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. And of course, the nature of the meeting today is to discuss the proposed City Hall project slash the parking deck. So we'll go ahead and get started. We'll jump right in. I guess I'll kind of open the door up. We've had lots of conversations in regards to the City Hall. This is not a new ongoing project. It's been filtering for quite a few years now. So we're here at the table that is, there's been a lot of changes also in administration. And also with COVID, we know there's been a lot of inflation with the prices. So we know that the project is now over budget. And so that has certainly circulated lots of conversations that we need to have. And also to make sure that all council members are fully aware and on board so we can move right in the forward directions to be best stewards of our taxpayers' dollars and make sure that we get this right on the front end. So with that being said, everybody don't hold your peace, let's start speaking up.
I would like to say to the gentleman from Robbins Morton and Calvin from Lambert Easel Durham that we did not ask you here today to make a decision for us. It's just we need information and we will make the decision. So don't feel like that's why you're here. So just want to get that out in the open.
Was the old parking deck recently power washed? Or cleaned up,
Pressure wash?
pressure washed?
Come on out.
You say recent.
Gary, you're supposed to be up here. Get up here. What are you doing back there?
Recently, the last couple of months.
He's supposed to be up here.
Yes.
I come early.
Pause for 1 second, Gary's.
You don't know of it?
I'm
Okay.
Gary Williamson, I'm the building official.
Okay. What was your answer, Bob? I'm
So I'll
sorry.
take that as a no. Okay.
Yeah, not that we pay someone outside now, maybe the parking deck got tenants over there may have.
We don't have any work, okay.
but I
Maybe
don't think
before
so.
they left, they cleaned it up.
But I'm not aware,
Okay.
I'm not aware of any official power washing.
Okay, thank you.
And, Ms. Simmons, I would like to say that I appreciate the format that you set up today. I love these round table type meetings. I think it's good for open exchange. It's very informal. I feel like that encourages people to kind of let their guard down. Because to me, my goal as a council person today is, when I've been in meetings like this before with other organizations, you know, there are no bad ideas, there are only ideas. And we try to find the best idea out of everything that may come out of it. And I hope that we get there starting with today. So I appreciate the informality of what you guys said.
What was our original budget for the new building? What did we say it would come in at?
So the RFP was what, $50 million?
Construction.
Yeah, construction.
Originally, it was 45 million, 30 million for the building and 15 for the attached parking deck.
I'm sorry, Shannon, say that again.
45 million, 30 for the building and 15 for the attached parking.
So any figures we're hearing now, does that also include the parking deck?
No.
What
The
figure?
second parking deck.
Yes, I
The
understand.
attached decibel deck, correct.
What figure are we really hearing right now?
It's just the city hall,
Yes, just the city hall.
yes.
Well, what number is that?
So, right now,
Hold on a second. So in the RFP that we received when we competed for the City Hall project, it was stated in the RFP that it was $50 million construction only. So that was what we understood as the construction budget
Was 50 million?
was $50 million. Now, there's soft costs, design fees, things like that, need to go on top of that. But for what we understood at the RFP format was a round number of $50 million. And that was for the, just for the new buildings.
That was a 6-story.
It was a 6-story building with a basement as well and a mezzanine floor on top.
Mitch, can you talk us through, with the RFP being 50 million for construction only, can you talk us through some of the other soft costs that are associated with it, but that are not part of the 50 million?
So we got to pay LED, so you have to pay his costs. There will be furniture costs.
Please go into dollars, if you can, or percentages.
Well, so what we see a lot of times on projects like this, you look at it as an overall program. And an overall program includes construction on one side and then owner soft cost, design, FFE on the other side. And we see a lot of times on projects like this that soft cost design fee runs about 15% of the overall program costs.
So we could say that would be 15% of 50 million.
No, maybe a little more than that. Because of the overall program, it includes that already, includes those costs. So $50 million would be whatever percentage that is of the 100%, and then 15% of 100% would be the other side. So it's probably going to be more than that. I didn't explain that very well, I know.
Nope, you want
All
to
right,
try
let's say,
again?
no, it's fine, no, it's fine. So let's say round numbers, and let's say $100 million project, okay? 15% of that's $15 million, right? So soft costs would be $15 million in that scenario of the overall $100 million. Construction would be 85. Does that make, see?
Yes, I can math.
Okay, so now do the same thing with the overall program to back into construction. And that, if 50 million is your overall program and that's it, then you do 15% of that would be soft costs and the rest of that would be construction.
Thank you.
I think it's somewhere around 58, 57, 58, somewhere in that neighborhood, I think.
The last calcs we did, the existing building as it is, we're having total all in at 55.5.
So when I contacted you guys the other day, that is the reason I contacted you. is because we have $48 million that we got for this project. And I think my only question I have here today is how do we do this project for $48 million? And I know that means we're gonna have to lower it down, not as tall, maybe spread it out, cut some square footage, do this, do that. That is I have no desire to borrow any more money to do this project. So how can you guys do this project for $48 million?
We need to work with you guys, we need to work with Calvin, and we need to figure out how to do it.
Let me ask this, it's 6 stories in the budget. If you built the 6 stories but didn't finish, say the top 2 floors, for instance, what would that cut? Would that cut the lot or stone?
So that's called shelling
You just
space.
had just a shell for now, and then at a later date, 5 years, 8 years, 10, whatever it is, all of a sudden, you know, the city's grown, you need that space. And then at that point, start, is that a feasible thing to do, or is that?
It is. It's gonna depend on how much, obviously, the budget's over, so it's getting that budget back down. So it's gonna depend on how much we need to get it down. It's in cases where there's a large discrepancy, it's easier to delete the square footage if possible. Because that's the biggest savings. Now you're not building square footage. Shelling is kind of that second step, to where you're building the structure, you're building the skin, and then you're coming out at a later date and fitting that up. Those fit up costs really depend on what's going on inside the space. Is it offices? Is it like a big auditorium? It will vary a lot, but just rough math, $150, $200 for fit up, depending on, and again, it's gonna vary a lot, what the space is.
If we're gonna shrink the thing, and I don't know what the square footage is, what we got now, if we're gonna keep shrinking, we're gonna wind up the same size building what we got now, what's the point of doing it? I mean, if we have to, see what I'm saying? I mean.
So as I understand from Calvin, the building as designed is 98.5.
Correct.
And if we took a floor off, it'd be 85.3 approximately.
Yes.
Does that allow any room for growth?
If we, as it's currently designed, okay, every department, as it's currently designed, has its own workroom. Every department has its own conference room. In addition to that, we were able to go out and carve out conference rooms on most of the floors. So that conference room area was designed as part of the expansion space for each department. In addition to that, we have the auditorium, I think seats 275, which could always be reduced, and you can grow areas in there. There is a training room on the 3rd floor that is about not quite 1/4 of the floor that could be grown into. That's almost an apartment right there. So to answer your question, yes, there's a growth built in, but it's built in within the departments and within a couple of major spaces. It's not additional square footage to be added later.
Is it feasible to, is that shell, say, I'm just saying, top 2 floors, and then come back later, and is that something feasible to do, or worthwhile?
You can do that.
I mean, is that gonna screw up the design that you got now, or?
If you're taking off 2 floors, or worst case, 3 floors, and you're just gonna shell those out, then those departments I can't fit everything in, even without any growth, I can't fit them in to 3-4 stories. No. If I redesign the ground space, take out the training room, and redesign all the departments, removing some of that growth, yes.
So with the option 4 that you gave me the other day across the street, which you just said you couldn't fit them into 3 levels, that calls for a 3 level, but you're spreading it out.
Spreading it out, right.
Okay, so you could fit them in that one.
And I'll let them speak to the cost per square foot, but they're 2 different animals.
Yes, well, that's where we're trying to get to. I'm trying to figure out how, if you can't squeeze them in, lowering it over here, how do you do it over there?
You spread it out.
Spread it out.
But once you spread it out.
Explain what you mean by over
Like
there.
here,
Across the street.
if you go straight up, you got.
Build
room
this building
later
over there.
on to add we got land room to add another, they build, I swear.
Yeah, you're gonna keep about 3/4 of the, all the existing city hall spaces now would remain. That was the intent, was to get the city hall built, move one time into there, and then go back and later on demo those buildings and use that space however you choose. Long-term would be another municipal parking deck that would hard link into the high rise. So if you decided you needed additional square footage later, before that rest of that site's developed, yeah, you could add another building, you can add an extension to the building. To answer your question, across the street, we wouldn't use 100% of the site, so you could have expansion on either.
You still have room
To
to
grow
spread
out.
out.
Yes.
You still have room to do so.
Yes, in that case where it's existing, we would need to design that additional square footage to be in concert with the municipal deck, because you need to kind of build those together to make that work.
So I have a two-part question right here,
Okay?
and this might be for the mayor. What is the actual head count in the current building right now?
The number of employees,
That's in the building right now?
I'd have to find that, I'm not sure.
General fund has about 5, I don't know who's really not outside, other than you got us across the street. Maybe 500, I don't know about utilities, so.
But you think 500 is in the
Just for
building?
general fund, I mean, even if you said 500, 600 general fund for utilities, it's probably, I mean, I don't know how many. Maybe close to 60. So if you say 650,
6, okay.
but that's between this building and us across the street as well.
Between the two, okay. And then my next question, could you possibly consider the mayor, the council, and the essential staff going into the proposed new facility? And that's not to say that the other staff is not essential, because obviously they're essential or they would be working for the city. But could that possibly be a consideration, and then possibly pulling the utilities out of the municipal building? Because in your other cities, such as Muscle Shoals, Tuscany, Sheffield, Decatur, Russellville, the utilities have their own standalone building. They're not located in there. Collections, building, billing, customer service, accounting, other utilities.
So if I understand the question, let me repeat it back to make sure I understood that. Can you remove departments from the existing, the new proposed city hall building? Is that the question?
Yeah,
Well,
especially.
yeah, that's a council decision, yes.
Would that make a difference, what I'm asking?
Well, if you reduce the need for square footage, yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Absolutely. I think you're gonna have to do something to that degree in some form or another, no matter what you end up doing, if you're gonna get the square footage down.
Because I'm pretty sure they probably have the space to house the utilities.
Yeah, I would think that the auditorium and the training room would be the first two things I would look at either eliminating or immensely reducing. The auditorium, for example, it's gotta be on the ground floor. It's a sloped floor, auditorium seating. We could level that off, reduce the size by at least half, maybe even more. And a combination of that, plus a department removed, could definitely get that number down. To what extent, I'm not sure it'll actually lay it out. Does that answer your question?
I think one other consideration, if we did that, if we moved them, what accommodations, what money's gonna have to be spent in relocating them and as far as their infrastructure.
Yeah,
So what you're saying is build a building and omit some of the departments from that building and build another building.
No, I'm not saying.
Not build another building.
I didn't say build a building, but you put,
That's why I'm repeating it.
okay, utilities, move them to, what the utilities, the municipal part of it.
How many floors right now have utilities in the new building? 2 or 3?
Well, it's mainly one with a little bit, another floor. part. It's over, it's spread over 2 floors.
So probably 2 buildings.
That includes collections and.
Yes.
Let me
Collections
say,
administration.
So,
we interact with utilities and customer service a lot with, when they're making applications for utilities and building permits, and then go make the application for utilities. And I think separating from us, this is just my opinion, would put a burden on the public. Having to go to another location other than City Hall would be a burden.
So you're talking about building, engineering, planning, customer service, utility.
Anybody that reacts or has something, customer service, they get a building permit, they make application for utilities, all in the same building. And, you know, to me, it just be put a burden on the public to have to go to another building, another location to do
I mean, I'm still confused. So they put the department in the existing city hall now? I don't understand where the department would pull out of the new building, where they're going. I'm still confused.
With utilities, like Marion.
Counting, well, you've got utilities administrative
County.
officer already, but you have accounting, customer service, collections. Is there anybody else? I don't know.
But where would they go?
If there's, I don't know if they have additional buildings that they already have their bank. I don't know what they have, what assets they've got, that they can send somewhere else.
Well, that's
I mean, you've got gas department as well. I don't know if Reedwood, part of that office could be, I don't know. There's just, and I would say it's probably more like 300, yeah, the 600 included all general fund, but that's Police Fire Street. So I'd probably say 350 would probably be a good, give or take.
Not 600.
No, I thought about that at first, so that's not right. That would be everybody.
I mean, Ms. Simmons, I'll be glad to find out exactly how many are actually in that building.
Okay, if you will, thank you.
Plus everybody from the 2 floors across the street.
Okay, thank you. So that 350 is between the 2, 3%.
I'd like to go back to you, Mitch. So we were talking a second ago about the soft cost and all that good stuff. Super great. Calvin, you said the amount would be 55.5
That was
all
the amount that
in.
we estimated.
Yes.
That's based on that 3 million for FF&E.
That has it at 6.5%, not 15%.
That's right.
I don't think we do.
His, no, let me speak for you, that's a rule of thumb.
15.
Yes,
So we think
It's
you
not
can
an issue.
have that, more than half it?
it's possible, yes.
I
But how much
think-
you're taking with you, what you're having to do, refitting the building will be in that 15% complete.
Let me just say, Michelle, I think one thing we've talked about a good bit is department heads, is made sure, as we've talked about this, say, you know, don't add anything to your budget that you can't carry with you. So I think there's a lot of what we have here that, you know, saving costs, we'll be able to take with us. And I think that also includes, you know, IT. I think they've been very careful as they've looked through this building. The way Calvin's done it, I know we took some time with Brad Holmes and Chief Tyler on safety and security and what we need to do. So I think from my conversation with Calvin, I think 15%. I surely hope we can do better than that.
Well, you're still talking about the particular option she was talking about. You're still talking about an estimated $55 million.
For the 6th floor of the basement.
I got you. But, I mean, it seems like that's kind of what you're still kind of rallying for, and it could be possibly even approach 60 million before it's said and done. So my question is, where is that money coming from?
Well, we've got approximately 48 million.
28 million.
Well, where's that other 10 million coming from?
We know, best guess over an 18 to 24 month period, we're gonna gain interest there. What do you think?
It's not gonna touch 55 million. It won't be anywhere close to that.
Well, when we saw the information I shared with you, had options 1, 2, 3, and 4. Option 1 was the current conversation.
Mhm.
Option 2 was conversation that Calvin and Robinson Horton had about, you know, doing something with this building and maybe a combo kind of thing.
Mhm.
And basically, they're saying, there's just no way. I mean, you
Right.
know. The third option was taking a floor off and doing what Calvin's talking.
Mhm.
And the fourth was what we came back.
Right.
And so what we shared with you is the configuration. I mean, this is in my, because I took what you got from Mitch and what Calvin gave us, and I gave you, comparing the third and fourth option. By getting the square footage equal, and by getting the cost, LEDs already spent over here, we compared that over there at 49, this here at 50.
No.
Still didn't get 48, I understand.
You're wrong. It's 52 is what you came up with. It's $51,986,000, which is just short. I mean, I got the extra in my pocket. It's, it's
But
52
the problem, we
million.
weren't sharing we weren't considering apples to apples.
Well, I'm just going by the last one you sent me. It was,
Well,
this one over there was
This one we
48
sent
something,
you.
this was 51.9.
this one we said.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. One, on our demolition by others, which means us. I've been estimating roughly $1 million to take this building down. Is that a middle of the road number in y'all's opinion?
Is it this building or the parking deck?
No,
This
this building.
This building. I don't know the size of this.
How many square feet is it?
Here, right.
56,000.
Because that's gonna be part of our project also.
I imagine
At some point,
Yeah, imagine.
at some point. You would have to do it immediately, no matter what you
Yeah,
do.
total. I mean, that's all floors.
Oh,
That's right.
It'd be, I'd say it'd be less.
Less.
Yeah.
And then I'm a little concerned with the 6.5, because I think, IT and security, they're both gonna have to have parallel systems. I just don't think there's much we can move there. We've got, that building's gotta be secured, and IT has to be up and going for it, and everybody take this building. So I think we're gonna push that 6.5 pretty quickly. Plus, I don't think there's a single window that's probably the same size. So I don't think window treatments, and then the things that will get moved over there, we gotta factor in the labor costs of those things. So I agree with Ms. Eubanks that that's probably a little bit of a low number. I don't wanna deflate that too low. I don't think we'd be at 15%. 'Cause I do agree with the mayor that we've been budgeting from what I've been told over the years to buy things.
And I think another thing, we should have had IT here, but, they need to speak to them, and I think they have a plan for that, so I don't think maybe it's a hybrid of what you're talking about.
So,
We had 12% boxed in for that originally, and thought we could cut it back down after some conversations. That's how we got the 6.5%, which is a 3 million, which is
And
what we
this-
kind of planned on.
55 that we're looking at, as well as the 51.9, 52 number. Both of those have the 2.5% contingency built into those.
Yes.
And that's what we're considering to be our change order allowance.
Unforeseen circumstances, changes, things like that, yeah.
Because I mean,
Look at all that.
we're gonna have change orders.
Yeah, something's coming.
And I just didn't know what other contingencies outside of that. 'Cause I think change orders alone will eat up 2-3% of the budget. So, but I don't know
Get about 2.5.
what another contingency would be that wouldn't be a change
A
order.
little over 2 million, there's 2 million in there for contingency for those items.
Okay, that's close to 4%.
The mayor went through the 4 options. Is everybody clear on those? Because I want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Feel free to review them.
Please.
Okay. Option 1 was to proceed as it is. Build this building just as it's designed in the location as it's designed. Option 2 was a hybrid of taking off several floors, more than one, and then trying to renovate some of the existing city hall spaces into more usable spaces. And it's not going to speak for you, but I'm going to speak for you.
Can you give us
If-
a price on those as you go? Or anticipated?
Yeah, option 1, again, the all-in price is 55.5 plus or minus. Again, that's based on the 3 million F&E cost. Option 2, we did not price out, because if budget is your concern, y'all speak up here, because this is our conversation having this. You won't know what you're into until you strip that building down to its bare structure.
Right.
In addition to that, you're gonna have to replace the HVAC system. You're going to have to replace every window in the building because there's not insulated glass in that building. You're going to bring it up to code. And you're not going to know what you're dealing with until you strip it all out. We can do some selective demolition, but until it gets, we may hit 16 spots and think we're great. And when it's 100% renovated or stripped down, we can find structural issues, we can find mold issues, we can water penetration, building envelope issues. There's no way to know that number. So if budget is your concern, that's the least thing you want to try to do, is just roll the dice on that. Option 3 was to reduce the square footage of the existing building and bring it down, which, electrical prices.
4 levels?
It's about 52, based
That
on.
was 5 levels, right?
That's taken one floor off, bringing it down to 85,300 square feet. And then option 4, somewhere in here,
Now, is there any shelf space left in that for growth?
no, there's not.
So we're adding on for growth later. with
You're
that option.
absorbing some interior spaces for your first line of defense for growth, and the second would be to add on additional.
So you're comparing that to 55, what'd you say, 55,000 currently,
55.5 is just the round numbers that we're working with.
compared to 85 Springs, is that right?
Compared to what now? Oh, yeah,
85 Springs.
per square footage count, that's correct, yes.
The 85 was gonna be about 52 million.
No, yes, I'm sorry, yes, it would have been 50, about 52, all in. And then the fourth option, which I think y'all had somewhere,
It's right here.
was that what that, well, I'm just looking at my numbers that I did originally. Option 4 there. Yeah, well, I've been option 3 in this case. They got moved around. What was your number, 47, 48?
It was 4807 to 263.
So that would be, the other option would be a combination of moving the building site across the street and then reducing the square foot of that footprint as well to get to the number of 48, about 48. All in.
But you gotta add your contract.
Yeah, so it's be 49 all in.
49 all in.
Well, that's, how many square, what's the square footage on?
81, 135, based on the last calculation.
But I think the most important question was that is, can we get the personnel that we currently have into that footprint if we were to choose that option across the street? And the second part of that question is, do we foresee having that many people working in our city hall building in the future? Or are we seeing less people or more or what?
The first part of the
In
answer
years to
I can address is that, yeah, we can definitely drastically reduce the size of the outer courtroom. Flatten the floor, which is an expense for doing that, and put seating like we've got now. That's really gonna drive the cost. Huntsville's the same way, so what Huntsville's done right now.
You mind if I jump in?
No, please do.
So part of that square footage that we're talking about cutting is that mezzanine space.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that.
And the mezzanine space is really just for mechanical equipment. It's housing.
So that really wasn't space where workers were gonna be.
That's correct. That's correct.
So that's almost 12,000 square feet of just that. Now, your
Wow.
units would go on the roof and
Right.
be screened. So as far as real cutting of program space or office space, it was about 6,500 square feet or so.
So, but addressing the auditorium, you can take the training room out, we can reduce it, and we can either look at a combination of moving some services out. Water department was one they were talking about, moving them out, or some combination of that. Or taking some of those multi-use conference rooms and letting those service as conference rooms for each of the departments, and just take that square footage out. Because I'm redesigning the footprint at that point anyway. I would just factor that back in to reach the target goal, is try to stay under that 82,000 square feet. Then as far as people moving over, numbers of employees, I can't speak to that.
Can I ask, Billy, tell us about our public building authority, where we are and how we did that, and what we need to do if we do something different.
Well, there's a lease of this space, the current location from the PBA to the city, which is how, and that, once the building's built, the city will essentially lease that building and property from the PBA, which the lease payments will equal the bond payments, the debt service payments. And if we move the building, we'll just have to do a different lease for a different piece of property and whatnot.
So how does that affect our bonding ability by the PBA?
It won't affect bond, it won't affect the bonding ability. Probably one of the most important things to do, and Shana can probably explain this better than I, but, you know, I mean, it's not absolutely critical, but it's important that we try to start spending the money as soon as possible. That's what the arbitrage accountant told us when he did the arbitrage calculation. We're gonna owe,
1.1.
yeah, at one point, we're gonna have to make a $1.1 million payment in 2 years. But the longer we hold the money without spending it, the more potential we have in creating.
Well, I think soon we're gonna make a decision about which way we're going and start something, but we gotta remember too, coming out of that building over there, we're gonna save $180,000 a year. And so, these other things you're talking about, I mean, you gotta factor that in as well.
And that $180,000 is rent to the county.
That's right.
We're paying, is it $17,000?
$15,000.
$15,000 every
How
month.
much is that?
15,000 in our.
What's the total? Figure that. It's not 180.
Well, is it not,
180?
they come to 180, I'm just trying to, I'm not as good as doing math in my head as Michelle is.
I can math.
And 180.
Is it 180?
180.
Thank you.
So also, since the very beginning, Melissa's been a part of this project long before I came on board. And I know the valuation of the deck and all the pieces and parts we put together. I know Calvin was involved in that. So Melissa, you might just share your insight with us.
Well, I would like to address Jimmy's question about personnel. There have been several iterations that all department heads, not just me, but all department heads have gone through in looking at the floor plans for the building, in ensuring several different things. One being, you know, where are you now in terms of your personnel? I can use myself as an example. I have unfilled positions because I don't have space for them. So what this floor plan does is it takes that into account. There's also other things that we're taking into account as well as any future growth, but also attrition. Something else at budget time that as department heads we're required to do is not only justify any new positions that we're bringing on, but also work with Shana, work with Human Resources and make sure that, you know, that is not frivolous spending, for lack of a better word, that there's actually a need for that person. Because in, you know, as far as local government goes, there are two things that we need to operate, and that's good people and good equipment, good stuff. And so, you know, just as buying a large piece of equipment, that same type of critical thinking and importance goes into hiring a new employee and bringing them on as a human asset. So as we're going through the iterations of the floor plans, there was a lot of discussion between department heads. We met individually, we also met as floors. For example, the most recent meeting was engineering, myself, and building because we, you know, are poised to be on the same floor. If there were opportunities for any type of shared space, I cannot speak for all the other departments. I can only speak for myself as far as that particular issue goes. You know, is there room for a tremendous amount of growth? No. Will it serve us well for another, you know, 60, 70 years as parts of this building have? Yes. Again, I can only speak for myself in terms of the space itself, but I can speak in terms of, from a personnel perspective, what we were asked to look at and the parameters in which we were asked to work in. You know, as far as, you know, the building goes, there's a lot going on in the existing building, and I don't think anyone is immune to that. We know where the issues are. We know there are some pretty heavy issues going on in the three buildings that comprise the municipal building and City Hall. We also know that City Hall it's a gathering place for the public as well, not just for, required meetings like what the council holds, but we also have, other types of public events that happen within this structure. People that are coming to open a business, what does that front door look like for them? People who are visiting Florence, what are we presenting to them as a front door? So I think the money equation is very important. And that isn't lost on any of us that have worked either closer or have at least had an opportunity to look at their floor and their space and how it's going to serve them in the future. In the a few committee meetings ago, my suggestion was to bring Robbins and Morton on board as construction managers and let them do what they do best, and that's massage the plan with the budget in mind so that we have the opportunity to move forward those of us that, on the payroll here, we're just employees. What we can't do is, tell you all this is what you need to do. This is the decision you need to make. And I don't think any of us would do that. But I do think that we have reached a point where the expertise, sans the three that are right here, that the expertise is beyond what is within the circle at this juncture. So the idea of if we're not going to do it, if it's just a terrible idea, then I think that's one path. If the need is there and the agreement is that the need is there, then I think it's time to have another level of expertise that comes in and begins to look at these intricacies that we're having a tough time agreeing on. And really get into some meat and potatoes, if you will, on whether or not this is a viable option to build where we originally said we would build it, or if we move it, what does that look like? What are the logistics of doing that? What is the impact of the budget? And what does it look like in the future? And the last thing I want to throw in, not what I wanted to end on, but I do want to make sure that I, make this statement. The downtown area of Florence is historic. There's a reason we call it historic downtown, and there's a reason that so many of the buildings have survived for so many years. And so I do think that if we look at changing design, particularly from an exterior standpoint, that we keep that in mind, that, we don't want City Hall to stick out like a sore thumb. And a lot of what you see in the immediate downtown area, these buildings are over 100 years old. There was a reason they were built tall, and there's a reason that they were pushed to that front building line. They are pedestrian priority. They lend themselves to meetings and opportunity that you don't get in other parts of the city. And so I would just ask from that standpoint that if we do get into some redesign, that we're cognizant of those points.
You are exactly, I agree with everything you just said, and that is why I reached out to these guys and said, how can we do this with the money that we've got? Because let me tell you, I'm the first one. I wish we had every penny of the money that we needed in-house to build exactly what you guys have worked so hard on before I even came along.
Oh, well, that would be
But, and then
not necessarily me.
when I asked the experts, can we lower this building? Can we do something different and keep the same look? Because I love the look. It's beautiful. Can we do that? How can we do that and get people in there? And I think he just mentioned a moment ago, when you cut out the mezzanine shrink up the size of the auditorium, eliminate a training room. You can get those people in there. So I have heard from them, and they've told me how that we can do it. It's not gonna be a 6-story building. It'll be a 3-story building, and we can still get everybody in there by making a few adjustments. Now, again, that's from the experts telling me that. And what I would rather do is exactly what you all set out to do. But my problem is the money. We don't have the money. I mean, I would love to live in a $2 million house, but I don't have the money. And so, if Mr. Davis wants to, write a check for the difference and us just build what we wanted, that's fine too. But, and I'm one council member. I would be a no vote on borrowing any more money for this. Now, if we got it laying around somewhere that we can make it happen, if she finds it, I'm open to listening. So I just want to do the right thing.
Yeah, I think that if you, President Simmons, can I respond to that? You may, thank you. I guess then, if I can for a moment just put my employee hat on, I don't think there's a single person that has either worked closely or not worked closely. And as a sidebar, yes, I worked very closely with this project up until a point. And then I did not. And only recently was I brought back on. So I want to make that abundantly clear that, yeah, I have a folder of information, but I don't hold all the answers. Having said that, I don't think there's anyone sitting around our circle of joy here that believes the city should go out and spend more money because, the employees need, a Taj Mahal to work in. That's not what this is at all. No one wanted COVID to happen. We didn't want, the people that lost their lives to COVID, to those that have been affected another way, lost their jobs, but we're all affected by the ramifications of what happened with COVID, including budgets. And we've all seen it in all the projects. So I want to make it very clear, and the others that are working on this project can do that for themselves. It has never been about producing a project for the council that is, $70 million because by God, we need a place to work in.
You're right,
It has never been about that, and I've never heard one person say that. So we're all cognizant of the money question.
And we're playing with the hand that we've been dealt.
Absolutely,
because of all those
are.
things right there that
Yes.
you just mentioned. So we're trying to figure out how, because I think everybody in this circle of joy agrees with
I didn't put joy in quotation.
Well,
I was
the circle of
sincere.
joy, we need a city hall.
We do,
need
and
a-
I
we
hope
need
that
a
that
new
is
building.
not even a question.
We need a new city hall.
We can give
do.
tours
We need
if
new
it is.
workspace
Yeah.
for our employees. And the other part of this thing that really appeals to me with the option 4 of going across the streets, because it puts our employees closer to that brand new deck we just built down there. And they can walk to it a whole lot easier than they can walk across 2 streets to get to a new building right here. With the price that it came back all in, and Calvin saying that he can make some adjustments and fit everybody in it, and we cut down on the walk for the employees. We can build, once this building's gone, we can build a parking lot here. And we got parking lots everywhere for employees to park and public to park. And, it sounds good to me because of the money. We don't have to go borrow any more money. We don't have to rob over here to pay for it. Personally, it sounds good to me. And I think Calvin will tell you, I mentioned to him the other day, I like what you said about when people walk in, when we have developers walk in and they come to visit you about doing business in our city. I think I told Calvin the other day, I said, there's one space that I do not want to sacrifice. And it's our planning department. I want them to have their space.
You want the whole floor now?
Whoa. Hold time out.
But no, but what you're saying is when people come in to do business, they come in and I want them to see that we're serious about, welcoming them to our city and their developments. And you do a lot of that with what you have. to work with. And I would love to see, I'd love to have a 10-story building downtown. But as I said, we're playing with the deck that we've been given. And unfortunately, it's $48 million.
So in 2020, if we'd known rates, if.
What's that?
In 2020, when we, or whenever we borrowed the money, if we'd known costs were gonna go up 20%, we've got 20% more money.
I agree, we would have and we should have, but we didn't know. I mean, again, that goes back, we're playing with the deck we were
Well, let
dealt.
me ask this question. I mean, so you said we weren't borrowing, I mean, you said, you know, you haven't borrowed money. Have we looked to see what it would cost us if we did borrow an extra 10 or 12?
4.5%.
I mean, what would that be and how would it
Think
affect?
about it if
how
we
would it
borrow.
affect I'm just, I mean, we can talk about how we do it, but have we investigated to see what it would cost?
I just told you, it's
4.5%.
4.5%. UNA just got their bond for.
No, I'm talking about money wise. You're talking about percentages. I'm talking about, what's the dollar amount?
Well, but even then, I think if we borrow more money, do we build fire stations that are needed?
Right.
Or city halls?
Infrastructures.
And if you want me to come up with 5 or 10 more million, what operational costs do you want me to cut? Do you want me to cut fire trucks? Do you want me to cut police cars? Do you want me to cut employees? It's just not there. I mean, it's just not. But, I mean, I know it's, if we go borrow more, I just don't want to. I mean, our debt service is low, it's great, we're in good shape, but I don't want that to be, because then it'll turn into a $70 million building and it's still not enough.
I agree with Mr. Alvin. We have to be good stewards
Sure.
of these funds of the taxpayers' dollars. And now, speaking to all of council, other than
Well, I just
So,
do
Mr.
that.
Hold on, Mr. Edwards, every other council member has basically relayed to me they did not want to borrow any more money. And I'm one of them, I agree with that as well. I'm not so sure on option 2, if renovation is totally out of reach here. Have we truly looked at that to get an estimated cost of what it truly would cost to do that? And one other thing, before you go there, I know years ago, Calvin, when I was on the fence about building, I asked you and I had a long conversation about perhaps moving to the, across the street at the current deck. You told me that we couldn't, and now possibly that we can. What changed?
No, I didn't say it could, is that there was a cost effect, and we were doing rules of thumb at that point. And we didn't have hard numbers, we didn't have the design far enough along to know exactly what we were talking about. Now we do, and those numbers are what they are.
I thought you told me that it wouldn't fit.
No, I brought you a drawing to show you it would fit either a 3-story or 4-story, but it would fit across the street.
And at one time, it was doing the same design over there as over here, going down into the ground with the pylons, but over there, they're talking about doing it on a concrete slab.
Well, we won't know till we do.
Well, until you do a geo study, yeah.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Mr. Hendricks had
Well, I may become the least popular person in the room for about 5 minutes. And I said, there are no bad ideas, but let's
No.
listen to all of them. I'm still not convinced that we can't remodel an add-on. I've seen it happen all over downtown Florence. I've seen what the Ruggles have done with the Martin building. And I feel like if we can at least take a little bit of time, and I don't mean a long time, and get a number that we can be comfortable with that exists. If we can't do that, we might as well tear down every building on 4th Street. Because they're all being renovated, and we want to save our buildings in downtown. So I'm glad I just heard you say, the 3 worst areas, right? Is that what I heard earlier in this building, the 3 problem areas? And because that may expedite finding out the answers to those.
The problem areas in the building.
Yeah, you
said
said
we
you
don't
could
know
give
that.
it to her and show the 3 problem areas. Maybe
No, there's 3 buildings.
Okay.
They all have
Okay.
problems.
Well, and nothing against you guys, but Calvin, you were hired to design a new building, and y'all were hired to build a new building. I don't feel like that's an unbiased opinion because of what you've been charged to do. It has nothing to, you're all great at what you do, but I would like an ad hoc committee, and I think we need to find possibly somebody from Huntsville. I don't think we can do it locally, because I don't think our local contractors can be unbiased, because it'd be something they would want to bid on. But I think we need to find an unbiased opinion of someone that can walk through this building from the basement to the ceiling. Gary, you would need to be with them. You know this building better than anyone. But if that number comes out at 40-something million dollars, then it makes no sense to do it at that point. We need to just do what possibly Jimmy's talking about. But if that number, if we're able to build 24,000 feet on back here, renovate the rest of this, and we can say $10 million, and we might have to peel the onion a little bit. We got $10 million to peel that onion. We don't want to be peeling that onion with a $2 million cushion. And I personally need option 2 vetted equally, so that I can scratch it off the list or get behind it. But right now I have to meet. And so for me as a council person, I need to be able to go there. Now, I don't know how the other council folks feel about that, but I'm not willing to just kind of just brush it to the side. And I feel like that's what we're doing.
And before you,
That-
I spoke up about it.
I know everybody's skin crawled, so I apologize for that part.
Are you chasing good money after bad?
Well, we don't
We
know.
don't know
We don't
that
know,
yet.
that's the problem. We don't know what.
We just
It
don't-
may be structurally saying everything, or it may be back fall apart.
That's, but we need to know the answer to that, and we don't need to spend $1 million to find that out.
How do you fund this? That's the part.
What did you do with Coffee High School?
Tore it down,
Why?
because it wasn't worth salvaging.
Who did you bring in from where?
We brought in structural engineers.
From Atlanta.
I'm not sure where they were from.
And then there was a bottom line, it would cost this to fix it, it cost us to build it. And it was so much to fix it, they decided to build a new one. That's what he's talking about.
It's exactly
And
what
you
I'm
headed that up,
Well,
didn't you?
The issue there, you may have to jump in and help me. I understand where you're coming from. But you're gonna have design limitations too. So your efficiency for your departments is definitely gonna go,
There's gonna be trade-offs.
there's gonna be huge trade-offs, that's right. Your floor to floor heights are what they are, there's no change in them. So
That's right.
current HVAC duct and the regulations for the new code, those are probably gonna be lowered ceilings than what they are now, and they're already pretty tight. Your building's gonna have to be brought to code, the energy efficiency code, the ADA code, all those codes, there's a price associated with that. Your entire building envelope is an issue. I know all your thermal glass or all your glass on the outskirts is just single pane glass, there's no thermal value whatsoever. It wouldn't pass an energy efficiency code now, even close. Your entire roof's gonna have to be done, and probably gonna add from the schools that we've been working on, at least 3 inches of insulation on top of that. And I'm not sure the parapets would even contain that. So we're gonna have to deal with that, and probably raise the parapets with the faces we can have and deal with some of the school projects. Something else on the building, I'm going blank. Asbestos, thank you. There's asbestos remediation that's gonna have to be done. as
Well, and we,
The main issue, Jackie, that I'm concerned with is you are not gonna know the answer you wanna know until it's completely gutted. There is no way to know that answer. Because we can selectively demo 99% of it, but there may be that last 1% that's gonna be, and you can't really do that with people operating in the building. You're gonna have to do partial demolition, if you even go that far, to see what's behind the walls. And even on there, you're only gonna see a fraction of it. So that's what I'm saying. If budget's your issue, that's the one that scares me the most. Because even if we come up, we look at it, we evaluate it, we think it's okay, and we say it's gonna be, $500 a square foot to renovate that, once it's all said and done, which it may or may not be. Once we gut it, that number could be 750, 800. There's no way to know until that thing's completely gutted, completely exposed, and then completely evaluated. That's my concern.
well,
We brought in here Ingersoll was the folks that came in and did $25,000 worth of mold remediation. And they said, there's not a way in the world that could be resolved.
well, it's the finding out, it's the option that scares me the least, finding out.
But you can't find out 100%. You're only gonna have a 25% guesstimate on that.
Well,
If that's what you wanna do, that's fine, but I'm just saying, there are
if we-
caveats there to be considered.
if you were telling me I had cancer, we're gonna die today, I'd go get a second opinion.
Sure.
And so, and I don't mean that disrespectfully.
I don't say that's apples and apples, but okay.
But I'm saying, I feel like we need, the council needs an ad hoc committee to bring someone in that's, and they're probably gonna tell us the same thing you are, as confident as you are about that. And at that point, Calvin, I can scratch it off my list.
That's what you
That's
want to
all I
do,
wanna be
that's
able
fine
to
with
do.
me.
But right now, just saying, we don't think, I can't scratch it off my list at that level. I need more behind it than that.
What would it cost to get somebody to come in?
I don't know.
I respect what Jackie's saying, and I see where you're coming from, but that's one of those things where, they come in and give you a number, but it's the gift that keeps on giving. Once they get on this level and start tearing this wall out, well, they come to you. You're talking about change orders. There would be a chain, multiple change orders every council meeting or remodel. But I see where you're coming from, and I respect it, and I would support doing that if that's what the council
Well,
wants to do.
we need to know what the gap is, because if the gap is close, there's no sense doing it. There's no sense, because Jimmy O's right, because that's the project that will give us the most change orders. But if it's a huge gap, we owe it to the taxpayers to acknowledge that and look at it.
Okay, so let me ask you the question. You've got, how much square foot over in the government building now?
It might be 20.
Total building?
Well, that's round
Just for
numbers.
what we're using.
The floors that you're using now.
Is it 20?
So you got another
15,
20,000 square
20?
foot existing. What do you want to do with those people? If I remodel City Hall, the existing 3 buildings, they're still not in here.
Right.
So,
What is my plan to
I mean, no, I mean,
without
what's
this-
the,
without
there's a cost
displacement?
associated with that. So the renovation cost is one component of that
Right.
scenario. But I've got 20,000 square feet at least that I've got to accommodate somewhere in an existing building that's already full. That's why they're in the other building now.
Right, so my thought
Yeah.
is we add on to the north end of the building. We had about 24,000 square feet, we built a city auditorium on the floor.
Okay.
And off either 2 or 3 floors above it. That keeps us from having displacement. They're going to stay where they're at. Then we would have to move folks over into that building from this building and renovate that and then move again. I mean, we would have to have a plan to create the least amount of disruption as possible.
Okay, so I just want to flesh this out a little bit to see the complications of this. And it's
You may get in the middle. where
You may need
all
to,
time.
yes. But there's associated costs, that's what I'm saying, there's some costs we're just kind of poo-pooing away, so to speak, that we need to factor into. So you got 20,000 square feet, plus or minus, just going to continue to pay rent on for an extended period of time. Then we're going to have to build a new building of some square, 25,000 square feet, whatever. Then we have to move selected departments into that new building. And then we're going to have to pay Domino, leapfrog, inside the existing City Hall building, and keep the building the city in operation while this is going on. I'll let the committee heads, y'all speak to that. I'm not sure how that cost-wise affects that.
Depends on how big the gap is financially. If it's a very
I'm
small
just making sure I've got
financial
all the
gap,
prices.
it's not worth doing.
Right, well, you've got a new building.
But we
you've
gotta
got
know what
rent,
the gap is.
renovation, and then you're gonna have labor costs of moving everybody around 2 or 3 times. So we just gotta quantify that to
Right.
some degree, and then it's gonna be a guess.
But it would have an entire project cost estimate on it, just like the others. What I'm saying, it gives us numbers to
Understand that.
compare.
But I'm saying that's gonna be the least confident number we can give you.
Yeah, I agree.
It would have to be a huge gap.
And I think there's gonna be a fudge factor, you know, like when you do these polls, it's plus or minus 2 or 3% when they're doing a political poll. It's gonna be plus or minus 5%, because we're not gonna know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So there's a escalation there that needs to be considered, that you're gonna have to, when you roll the dice on that, if you decide that that's a gap that closes enough that you're willing to take that gamble, it's still a gamble, and at that point, you're locked in. And if it escalates past that gap,
It is burdens on me at that point.
well, burden on the council, I guess, at that point.
I'll just say.
Oh, no, they're gonna put it on me at that point.
Well, they gotta vote on something, so they all gotta have a.
I mean, I know the chances are low, but it's an answer that we should have already vetted, in my opinion, and we never have. And I don't know why, and maybe we, I'm just saying, I'm looking at it from a business owner's perspective, not throwing anybody under the bus. I just feel like when we're gonna spend $50 million, we need to know every possible option that exists, so that we can make the most informed decision, because what I wanna see us as a council do is have a 6-0 vote on this, no matter what it is. But we gotta go through some of this to get there.
Mitch, what you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and this is what the council wants to do, I understand, we've evaluated the same thing with the past. I mean, we want to build new buildings, we want to renovate buildings, we just want to build stuff, right? So sometimes it works out, sometimes the building is, it's not that old, and the way the efficient HVAC system, things like that, it works out, but we do just go renovate, add on if needed. With what I'm hearing, what we've heard about the City Hall, it probably isn't gonna be that, it's probably gonna be where it just makes more sense to tear it down and start over. But we can evaluate that, I mean, we can if we want to, so.
I just feel like we have to have someone that's not bidding on the construction project, the property,
And that's fine.
have a fair assessment. Nothing, if it was somebody else, we'd bring y'all in to do it, that kind of thing.
Can we talk a little bit about efficiencies? We've mentioned that word, we've kind of talked a little bit about it. And Shannon, these may be questions for you, but we've talked about 3 buildings. We know that there are issues with them, but we also have to maintain them. What is our annual budget for maintenance, but also the utilities we pay to operate the 3?
I mean, the building maintenance is usually on this one about it's just about $1 million, $500,000.
Well, we usually budget $50,000 or $60,000 in as part of the operating budget, just for repairs on this building.
And
Heating,
Just
air
this
conditioning.
building here?
Yeah, but that does not include utilities, or that's just for general maintenance.
with utilities probably. take
So
over
would we
7.
multiply that by 3 to cover all 3 of that, or would it be more than that?
No, that's all 3.
Yeah, all one.
It depends on the issues that are encountered. I think on the regular, that's what the budget is.
Now, sometimes, like the chiller, we replaced the chiller in this building, and it's been a long time ago, that was probably $120,000.
Okay, right, it's gonna vary. So if we look at a new facility, what are the efficiencies that we've built into that? And then how do we look at maintenance on it? Because that's something we have to factor in too. When we build this and we pay for it, that's not where our obligation ends. It really only begins at that point. And we look at what we've had to pay for with the animal shelter. We look at what we've had to pay for. And quite frankly, look at what we didn't do with the parking deck and where we are and what got us here. So I have a little bit of trust issue with that. So can you talk us through that, please,
As far as
Calvin?
efficiencies go,
Please.
we're gonna have brand new windows and doors, which are gonna be current in terms of the energy code, in terms of their thermal value, thermal leak, which is gonna tighten the building envelope up, which should reduce, including the roof, with its insulation requirements. All those are gonna reduce or increase your efficiency, which should lower your operating costs. Now, to what number, I have to go through with my engineers and calculate all that out. And in terms of efficiency, in terms of space use, I mean, that's obvious. Everybody's gonna be right where they need to be. They're not having to leave this corner and walk 2 blocks over here. Time they walk a block and turn a block to go into the apartment and then walk back again. So from a public efficiency standpoint, that's gonna be, then these people are all gonna be able to communicate within the same building, so they have to leave one building to go to another building and up and down. So I hope that answers the
I would
question.
welcome, and this may be something else, that if we were to form this ad hoc committee, it would be another way to look at how we are financially, because I think that's also very relevant to this discussion. What we're paying now, but versus what we will pay and what we can expect to pay. And one thing I also wanted to go back to is, somebody said, Calvin, I do think it was you said that we can expect even a 5% plus or minus if we were to renovate this building. What are you factoring in as the plus or minus on the other options that you provided?
Well, now, that's specifically, we're trying to renovate an existing building whose conditions are unknown.
Sure.
And that 5% could be 15%.
But you also said 2 to 3, so are you factoring in a 2 to 3 plus or minus for the other option prices that you gave us?
I'm not sure I'm following this question, to be
That
honest
we
with you.
might
Comment on the other
anticipate.
options that we were looking at? No, those are or relatively rule of thumb,
Yeah, so
current
these are,
standards.
these are for design, really, yeah, these are
Right.
design contingencies.
Okay,
And they've got contingency and price escalation, I think, calculated
So
into
these
that.
would not be changeable contingencies.
so that would be different.
Well,
Or-
we would expect to minimize that, because we would have the design.
And that's what y'all's job would be to do.
Yes, that's correct.
The last several city projects that we have done, and we have given the contingency, and including city school system projects, we've given the part of the, at least part of the contingency back to them. We've never exhausted it, except for one case, and that was when the owner decided to make a scope change. So I hope we would button those drawings up enough that that would be the case here as well.
I don't think we as a council have ever taken a tour of the building. Taken a tour of the people that are over here with Gary. You know, I hear about the sump pump that's in the elevator shaft. You know, I know the elevator on the other side basically cannot be repaired again, looking for parts. So, I mean, I don't disagree with, you know, with Jack.
I mean, those would all get replaced, and that's,
But, you know, it'd be worth it for us to take a little, if you hadn't been on the jail floor, it might be worth it to see some of that, how that's dealt with.
Yeah, that's a whole different animal.
I know we
Jail's a
walked
whole
around,
different
look at it,
discussion.
we walked around, looked around at mold and stuff.
You got mold in
You
the
know.
basement, you got a water infiltration in your building envelope in the emergency EMA
We have it
911
on
area.
the first floor too.
Yeah.
in our department.
I think I toured that jail in high school, I don't think I was. You guys, one of our class projects.
You can see any internal lights on.
And there's no dollar figure you could estimate if we brought someone in to.
I mean, these guys may be able to do a better job than I can.
It would depend on who's brought in. What would you anticipate having to pay to get a good review of this building? You're gonna need several different folks, is the problem.
You just need a construction manager, you need engineers to come through and evaluate, you need a complete risk analysis.
Sounds like you have water infiltration, you have a hazardous material, structural. Do we have asbestos that we know of? Mechanical, yeah. Okay.
When was the last renovation? We had it renovated, was it in the 90s?
86.
86?
It was more than 25 years.
We had some stuff done in 92 and actually had to have an asbestos study at that time, and they removed some, but there's a lot. All this piping in here is, you know, insulation is asbestos. Exterior walls plastered, asbestos floor tile, some of it's been covered, carpet.
Absolutely.
It is
But that wasn't
asbestos.
the whole building, that was just
Parts
parts
of
of
it,
it. Parts
Yeah,
of it.
but
But
the mechanical system, you know, we have dealt with a lot. Y'all probably see something on there, not the next council meeting, another where we had these emergency repairs and stuff. So there's some ADA concerns and the asbestos issue and the mechanical system is,
I mean, I see it going all the way down to the concrete skeleton. I don't think there's any way around it. And so I don't know if there is without an X factor of the concrete skeleton being damaged. There is one spot that concerns me that Brad Holmes had shown me down at the basement at the bottom of the elevator. I'm not sure how they did that after they got down there, but somehow they've damaged it. But, you know, I'm just curious what it would take to get it from that concrete skeleton back, and if there's a way to get a cost per square footage to do that, so that we're not spending months and months and months doing that. I know we still have to find out if those X factors exist, but I can't let go of if that concrete skeleton is there and in good shape. It's an extremely valuable asset.
Well, I would say considering what's happened with the existing parking deck at its age, you're probably gonna run into some of those same factors. I'd be surprised you didn't find some structural issues to some degree. I know you'll find asbestos, and my biggest issue, I think, y'all speak to y'all with this as well, is gonna be your water infiltration for your building envelope. That's the biggest issue. The EMA 911 is buried in the basement. There is no way to fix that except for digging out everything around it and then going back and trying to waterproof that up, if it's even fixable at that point. So, and those are those issues you're not going to know until you totally gut that thing out and you see exactly from wall to wall what's involved with the issue, and then the possibility for repairing that issue, and then the cost associated to that. It's gonna be a shot in the dark, even with a partial observation, demolition, inspection.
I think this is giving us a lot to talk about.
Can I make a comment about the renovation of this building and stuff? The option 3 to me, besides renovation, would be preferred to me on whether you had to get departments down on 3 levels, 4 level, and still have the 5 or 6 level building and stuff. Use the square footage that departments currently use and get it in this building, so the employees eventually will have a parking area here, so they don't have to walk across Tennessee Street or over across Mobile to get to the parking lot. It's for looking down the road in the future where the employees and customers can park and come into City Hall and do
Talking about
their,
having parking back here.
here on this, where this building's located, after they build this building. Maybe departments can use the amount of square footage that they're currently using and have that 2 floors or a floor that can be developed later. I would certainly prefer that to the option of trying to renovate this building.
I know it's extremely unpopular.
Well, I think we've got 3 experts here, and all 3 are saying we have no clue what it might cost. And I know what you're saying, and I don't disagree with that. But I think when you got 3 people saying, you know, you could open up it can, you wish you'd never opened up, and we're in it at that point. So we've stepped in something we've not previously stepped in. So I just don't see, you know, when the 3 experts are saying, you know, we wouldn't do it. Well, that's what we got to do. And so are we gonna go around what they're saying and maybe, as I say, Jason's gonna go fast. We don't know. And we won't ever know until they tear into the thing and then, and if you build a piece here, and a piece there, and a piece there, and then you're down to the last 25%, and to finish the thing, and boom, you hit something that's gonna cost a boatload to fix that little bit. And we put all this money already in a building, and then the last 10 or 15% or whatever is terrible, you know. And what do we do at that point? Go to the bond market, borrow money?
It's also.
And we're not gonna do that.
Right. We also talk about phasing a lot of construction work at that point. It will have some significant cost drivers behind it too.
The duration is gonna take a lot longer.
Saying that if you're basically gonna save your structure, that's what, part of your building envelope, that's what you're gonna save. You're gonna have to incur demolition costs on top of that. So let's just say it's close to a wash, just for argument's sake. Let's say it's $550 a square foot. Then you put the same amount of money into an existing building that's already, what year was this built? These buildings?
58.
58. That's 60 or 70 years old versus having put that into, you're talking about efficiencies into a new building that's gonna be much more efficient.
No, if the numbers are, I said that at the beginning, if the numbers are, if the gap's not there, it's not worth taking the risk. I mean.
I understand that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue.
I mean, I can do the
It's gotta be a
exercise,
lot.
but you're gonna be there at the end. I mean, you're gonna be close to that. And then you're gonna put that, do you wanna, I'm saying me as a taxpayer now, I wouldn't wanna put that money into an existing building that's already 70 years old. Because 50 years down the road, I'm gonna have additional structural problems, and now then it's gonna be 120 years old. From a structural component and a building envelope issue underground. So those issues concern me from a longevity from, you said good money after bad. I mean, yeah, we may save a little bit in the short term, but what's it gonna cost us in 20 years versus what would have cost us in another 80 years for a new building? So that, I don't know how you quantify that.
Fight for me. I don't have a dog in it.
We're all in this boat together.
I'm just trying, again, I'm not, I mean, I guess I am arguing with you. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate to
And I
look at
want
the
you to.
broad,
That's
broad
what this
picture.
is
Nothing
supposed to
personal
be.
at all, no,
But
no,
we've got the opportunity to do something that's gonna last the next 50 or 60 years.
longer than that.
And I think we're all thinking the same thing. We don't wanna blow it. but we gotta somehow stay.
I think one of the things that I've picked up on, and I'm certainly pleased, I've had the opportunity to go over to the Bank of Independent Building and, Mitch Hall. And I know as we talked about the RFP, RFQ process that we go through, and the construction manager at risk, general contractor. And I know after my tour with the new Huntsville, and I think Turner actually did it. And I was really impressed with the idea, and I know y'all spoke about this, really looking at it from a bigger picture and saying, we can save you here and let you put the more expensive stuff here. Those kind of things, make those wise decisions. I mean, y'all done it for, lots and lots of businesses. And, obviously, my conversation with Robin, since he's from here, I know when we started looking at the RFP, there was at least 2 that had connections here. But when I saw the kind of people y'all were the experience you brought here, I know Melissa brought that up, the experience that you have in what you're doing, we're paying for that experience that's gonna help us get the biggest bang for our buck. And I think that's what every one of these want. I know Jimmy and I'm talking, we want the biggest bang for our buck. I guess my problem is, we're still gonna have to make decisions. If we come down, we start at this price, Jimmy wants it at this price. Once we get into it, are we gonna be able to ratchet that down? Are you gonna find things? I mean, I know beside us here, we've already done the soil borings. We've already paid for that. That's something we won't have to do.
Well, I would tell you, if you're gonna have a budget problem, now's the best time. I mean, you
How
haven't
much is a geo study that you're gonna have to do of it? If you did it all?
Maybe $10,000. That'd have to be how many soil borings we did.
Yeah.
If we did it across the street, just as an example, I would just do the building footprint, maybe 6 to 8 soil borings is all they want to do. Where the building foundation's gonna have the greatest.
$5,000-$10,000.
Something like.
But
Probably less than that.
I guess what I'm saying about them, personally, we gotta have somebody like them, wherever it's located, whatever we decide to do. I think we've gotta have those professionals to help us get this done.
Well, nobody's arguing that. I agree with you there, so.
I agree with Jimmy. We voted to build it. We went and got the money. Let's build it within our money. And whatever we have to take away, we know it's not our fault, it's not their fault. There's not anybody in this room, it's their fault. Either we borrow more money or we cut something off the bill. Those are our 2 options.
I just don't wanna cut off too much and go back to the same place that we are right now.
Then we keep this one we're in. We give the money back.
Brother, look.
Yeah, I totally disagree with the idea that this is gonna last us 50 or 60 years because we're having to make so many cuts that we can't possibly accommodate growth.
That's what I'm thinking.
And that's where I
Yeah.
hit that wall every time, Calvin.
That's for structural integrity, the life of the building. That's not the life of the city. Those are 2 separate issues. So when I'm speaking that, I'm speaking to the building life.
Yeah, but where are
Not the
those people gonna go?
performance.
Are we gonna put a desk on the street? Like,
Well,
hey, good luck.
Well, and
Right,
why
that's
That's
not-
a decision y'all gonna have to make. I can't make that decision.
Well,
Of
that's why I think
course,
about if
I
you just do
can.
A 6th floor and just have a shell, and then later on, when you needed it, you can.
Well,
use it then.
no,
I
look,
don't know if that's saying
if it's built here on this side of the street or that side of the street, if you build it the way the option 4 goes, you can go spread it out and build onto it in the future if you want to.
We get shell space over there.
I mean, it's the same, you got room over there to go out.
But aren't
with-
we above budget at that point?
No, I'm talking about way down the road if we wanted to build onto it.
Without growth.
If we grew to where we needed
It
more
makes no
space, you
sense.
got it over, and you have it here too.
You spend in almost $50 million, you need to have potential for growth and expansion there.
So I think
We
my
won't
last
be here, but
question,
Forest is not
Aaron,
gonna remain the same.
Are we still, we get through all this,
Mhm.
are we still able to build a building we're gonna be proud of.
Absolutely.
Because this is the face of the city, whether we remodel, move across the street, if we're talking cutting dollars here, and we wanna make sure that we build something that we're proud of.
We don't want the new parking deck to look better than the new town hall,
The,
because the parking deck looks
I don't
nice.
want single pane windows.
Yeah.
No, see, I gotta pass the energy code, that wouldn't be allowed to,
You know what
I couldn't do that today.
Mitch
Which goes back
and,
to your efficiency question.
Brad.
Brad, the option that Gary mentioned, the third option, which I know all-in price is what, 52 million? Is that what it was?
Which
53 million?
Option 3.
I know, is that coming to only taking one floor off of it? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Somewhere
it'd be-
around 53
Say
million.
54 to round it up.
Is there a way to get that down some way or the other to our,
That's a lot bigger floor. That's when you
Budget.
don't get your apples for apples back.
Just take it to Florida.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you would you would want to start with the mezzanine, and then you would start with.
Yeah, I'd
space.
start with taking the mezzanine out and just going with the rooftop, and hopefully I can get that to work. I'll blow and chiller up there.
Yeah, and I would look at more of a programmatic, do you need this, I mean, that's gonna be the driver, do you need the space? Because we can cut a floor off easy, I mean, that's the easy path. But it's gonna be where I think we're really gonna have to work with Calvin on shrinking spaces, or like the auditorium, is there corridors we can move around to save space? That's really where you get your value. Because then you're not cutting program space, you're not cutting someone's potential office, you're cutting space that's a corridor, you know, at that point, what does it matter? So that's really the point where we would have to get to.
But if we're already concerned that we're tight on space now, and now we're gonna cut space, and then, I mean,
No,
red
no,
line.
that's.
no. You're at 56,000 square feet roughly. You got 20,000 of these. You're roughly at 77,000 square feet, moving into 98,000 square feet.
All right, that is, okay. And I think that's part of the issue too, talking broad numbers. If we throw square footage, it's nice. But like our department, when we move in, I'm at full capacity. We're at full capacity. We do not have an office, and we lost our conference
You
room.
did, your department is the albatross.
And I don't, and that's my opinion, and I don't want
I
this
would-
to
I would
be.
agree with that.
And I don't want this to be about the engineering department. I mean, but as a whole, I mean, and I know it may not be as tight for others, but it's not as tight as us, but it is tighter than what it is. And that is my biggest concern as an employee of when we have somebody, you were talking, when we have somebody come in that wants to look at engineered plans, we really don't have a place to roll out a big set of plans right now to look at. And it's just, that is our concern. If we're looking at cutting cost off a short building, that's, you know, to save $1 here and there, I think that is a big red flag.
Calvin,
Well-
which option is 98,000 square feet?
that's number one.
As it is.
Like it
as
is.
it's
Oh,
currently designed.
okay, because I was like, no, that's more than we want to. So
Yeah,
see,
we-
we're all
that's-
right
that already got
back,
the-
right where we were.
But Todd, you're correct as well, just like Melissa's, everybody's right. It's just that we don't have the money. Where are we getting it?
No, I agree, but I just want to let us know that there are other issues, and it's not I do not envy y'all's position by no means.
Your department is the most compromised, let me put it that way. Others have some grace, and a little bit of growth. They have their conference rooms, they have their large workrooms, they've got additional areas. I think the solution to that, if we move back, whether we're cutting it off or not, I'm redesigning this anyway, is to move you off that floor. Because right now, the ideal goal that I had was for building, planning, and engineering, all on the same floor, so the developer just moving across the hall
Yes,
instead of going. But I think based on what I'm hearing you say, and the confines of the footprint that we're in at the current location, the option is gonna be to move you off that floor, and then just gonna travel another floor.
And
But I can fix that, I can fix your concern.
these design things, I guess, are conversations for later, but I mean, is there like a way to relocate like human resources and places like, could they be in a different place and not be in the main city hall? Or,
I think you still want most of your,
Okay.
that's for the employees.
well, again, I'm just thinking out loud here, trying
And
to.
my thing has always been the expansion. What's the expansion plan for the current or for the one across the street? Like what, you know, would it be easier to expand if you had a 3-story and add a 4th on the top, easier than it would to have a 5th or 6th story and then add another one on top as well? There hasn't been that discussion. What's the growth plan? What's the expansion plan for either option? And I think that's where we need to hear all the options, and can you fit not 80,000 square feet in a 3 or 4 story building and still have the room, and it would reduce the cost.
Yeah, the first steps of growth was internally within the departments, and yours would be the only one I would have concerns about. The rest of them, I think there's some growth in there. What I would like to see, Jimmy, back to your point, is some consensus on, we keep shotgunning this every time we meet.
Yeah.
And I come away with, I'm asked to do 4 or 5 different options, which I'm fine to keep doing, that's fine, I'm happy to do that if that's what y'all want to do, but I'm not getting any traction. And I can't answer these questions for efficiency, I can't answer the questions for department, I can't answer the questions for growth until I have some parameters to know what I'm working in. Am I working in the existing building, am I working in a new building? If it's a new building, is it a 3-story, is it a 4-story,
And you're
is it a
right,
6-story?
we need to have a
I can't
meeting.
answer those questions
We
until
need
I
to
get
have
some
a
traction.
decision-making meeting about how we want to go forward with this and give it to him
Yes.
and say, do it. We could sit in a circle 10 more times until we say where we want this building and how big we want it to be. He doesn't know what to do.
I agree with that, and this is the first conversation that the whole council has gotten together. We've been getting it in bits and pieces, so I welcome this and I'm glad for this. So now, everybody, I hope you have asked all your questions, so we'll know how to proceed. I ask the council, we've got some tough concerns, we've got some strong decisions to make as a full council, all 6 of us. We've got to,
We're a good team.
I mean, together, we've got some strong decisions to make to move this thing forward. However the council decides to go, you either go forward, you sit still, or you don't do anything. But we as a council, we've heard a lot of the concerns, and I think we all agree with that. And so we just got some due diligence, soul searching, and some fact finding that we need to come together because so we can, if you decide to proceed, so Kevin can know what direction he's going in and not getting it for 2 or 3 different people.
That's right.
You don't need it like that. You can never move
You're not on
forward.
the same page right now.
Yeah, you can't move forward.
Just give me a
And I'm just gonna
target to
use
go
you as a parable. You can't move forward listening to Jackie, listening to Katrina, listening to Jimmy, what he wants. No, it's gotta be the consensus, so you will know, and not getting all these different directions from 6 council members, the mayor, Shayna, Billy. No, I mean, everybody in the circle. You got to know.
If you can narrow that focus
And
down,
that's what we as a
then I can take it
council,
to the next one.
must do.
Well, then we need to get busy on that and do
We
it.
will, we just had this first reading, and we know what we can do. We ain't gonna do it tonight, Jimmy, I'm just kidding. Yes, sir.
One thing that we haven't completely spoke about, and I know I talked to Jackie today, we need a comment from Melissa and Gary about the old deck and the study that was done.
I wasn't part of that.
2017,
2017.
Yeah, I wasn't part of that.
If you've got a copy, I think everybody's got a
I
copy.
sent it back out to all of the council, because we had 3 that were not on the council when that took place, and so I sent that out to them on Friday. For everybody to review it again.
How do you feel about tomorrow night's vote on taking down this building next door when we're not sure about exactly what we're gonna do?
Me,
Can we speak to that?
well, let
Since
me
that bid's
speak
already
as
out.
a council. I think until we find a clear path, that's just me, till we find a clear path, what we're gonna do with City Hall, I just think it needs to pause for a second.
Let me.
That's just my opinion.
Is that parking deck unsafe or is it not?
It's not safe.
Is it unsafe, Gary?
It needs to come down as soon as
That,
possible.
well, then that's
It's a
why I
huge
don't
loss.
understand 2 things. Why are we still parking in it? And
I know.
2, why are we not already taking it down? I mean, I know we can't do it right now, but I mean, we need to, if it's unsafe, we don't even
should
need to
close
be in it.
And nobody park in it if it's unsafe.
I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
To your
Yes, sir.
point, the only thing in that contract that affects this discussion is if you were to decide to move the building across, the City Hall building across the street. Okay. The way it's currently designed, that demolition is for the new building to go in this location, whatever height it is, and for the deck to come down and a surface parking lot on the backside to be installed. So that surface parking lot is the part that would need to be removed from that if we were to move the building across the street. Okay? The advantage there is that's the last thing they'll do. So we've got time to still remove that, but I just need to make sure that the low bidder understands that may get removed from this contract.
And I got one final question, and I'm gonna shut up, I promise.
No, go ahead.
I need to hear from this council, are we committed to staying at the budget that we've got, 48 million, to do this project with?
At this meeting right here, right at this moment, the council is not here to take any type of votes tonight. We're just here for a meeting, we're not,
I didn't
voting.
ask you to vote on it.
Well, you just asked that you needed a thing, so that we'd have to have a vote.
I said, are you committed? You don't have to say, you can speak, you don't have to vote.
I hope y'all will take what Gary said about the deck car.
What's that?
I hope you take what Gary said about the deck car.
That it's unsafe.
It's unsafe and we need to.
I think we need to put a sign in front of it that says you can't park it.
And we're gonna do that very thing, very soon.
I don't think we need to give it to Christmas to park there, because if it's unsafe, it's unsafe. Because I'm under the opinion that if it was unsafe, we wouldn't say you could park there till Christmas. You would just say it's unsafe. And we'll never be able to pay that bill off if something happens in there and we've publicly said it's unsafe and we let people go in there and park just because it's convenient for the Christmas season.
I cannot argue with that.
So I don't think it's unsafe, because if everybody else felt it was really unsafe, you wouldn't let people park it.
So I got a question, was it, I know the upper levels were the one, that's why we do not allow people to park there. So it's still structural sound right now for the other lower levels for people to park there, because we still don't letting people, I don't want to defer this to Gary or to our engineer there. Either both of you can chime.
We, in 2017, when the concrete was spalling, there was some cracking in there that we were concerned about. So we got LBYD out of Huntsville, the engineering department, to come take a look at it and do a report on it. That's what y'all should have.
That's what I said.
Yeah, and a lot of it was because of water infiltration on the east and west sides, moisture from rain, because it's an open parking structure and not a conditioned space. And so they recommended some repairs to it that they said they could do, but we was going to close the deck down for several months to do that. It was about $1 million for the cosmetic surface repairs and further study on it. So the administration at that time made the decision not to do that, not to pursue that, because it was going to extend the life of the deck, maybe 10 years, because it's 40 years is a normal life for that in most cases, and it'd extend the life of it maybe 10 more years. And
We're at 47 now, 48 now.
47 now.
So we did none of the things they suggested, none of them.
We actually, I think, Public Works come in, David, and then they poured out some concrete. We haven't poured out some concrete that was off and on, but there were no repairs made other than the last repairs that was done was a stairwell over the northwest corner, about $130,000.
And I think I read in there that due to the water infiltration, there was also some rebar that had started rusting.
When it was built
Corroded.
in 78, they used a lot of calcium chloride for cold weathering concrete, and it was thought that that may be a factor on
Right.
because of moisture infiltration. It causes the rebar to deteriorate.
Well, it scares me quite personally for it to be open and being used. I mean, I agree with Bill that if anything were to happen, we can forget any project we want to do, because we'll be paying that bill for a long time.
So my question, at this hour today, is it unsafe to park on those low levels and remain open till after the holidays? Or do you shut the whole thing down?
We had evaluation in 17, and without doing it, I mean, to answer that fully, we'd have to go through that same process that we did back in 17 for it to be addressed, and hire a structural engineer to make that call, make that decision to evaluate it. They'll go through and kind of go through that same process as there. There's, me or Gary right now, I mean, you can't just look at it and say, no, it's not safe. I mean, that is not something that you can just give the eye test to. Kind of like that, you talk about the street department came in and you see where the spalls, what they're like, where the concrete's flaking off there. You know, those are, you gotta get somebody to evaluate that. So as far as just saying yes or no, we can't give you that answer.
Well, we're gonna close it in 5 or 6 weeks. I doubt we can give an evaluation back within 5 or 6 weeks.
Well, let me say, it's not in the danger, I'm not
That's it.
concerned it's a danger of collapse or anything like that. It's just that if you had a piece of loose concrete fall or something off of that, somebody was injured.
Well, we're not in danger, in your opinion, of it.
No.
No, no.
Okay.
So that
that's
makes
my
me feel
biggest
better. That's
concern.
what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
It took a long time to get that answer.
So it's not gonna pancake before Christmas.
So have you had any reports?
Bernie, you heard that. It's not gonna pancake.
Have you had any reports or seen any concrete falling in the last few years that's been reported?
They have cleaned up, picked up some pieces of concrete they found, maybe off of a beam that maybe it fell where it had spalled and it had come off, yeah.
But that is not that's not a sign of it coming down. That is just where water has got in between that and just kind of, it's deflected off, but it's just worked its way through. Just yeah, that is not a sign of it's.
We just don't want anybody hurt.
Nobody use it. They use it.
Y'all have any additional questions for
No.
anybody in the
If that
Circle of Joy?
parking deck is closed in January, when is it gonna be taken down?
It starts in January. That's why that's the reason we closed it.
Okay.
The idea was, as I understood it, was to allow additional time frame to get through the holidays for the downtown market, just have additional parking.
Well, and not just parking, just to try to
The
calm the,
disruption
calm the
downtown.
environment, you
Keep the
know,
roads
because
open
they.
through the holidays.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if
Especially
you close
Pine
it,
Street.
yeah, because
It's
you
been
you want
closed so
to
much.
Mobile.
downtown traffic will be impacted, right? And that's gonna come down slow. You're gonna have to, you can't just take a sledgehammer or throw it, a wrecking ball to it. No.
Thank you guys for the good,
I
bad,
think
and
city
the ugly.
enforcement
Appreciate it.
balance, and we should be able to.
One whack at a time. No, it's like